Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining in for the Dallas Division virtual lunch. We are having a panelist discussion today that I think is going to be very interesting. Everybody is trying to get a hold on how COVID is going to affect the industry as a whole, and we thought it would be interesting to screw down to some specific vendors and see how they are doing and what are their thoughts on the future of their realm. I would like to start off by saying thank you to the 2020 year-long partners, Facets Appliances, Kitchen and Baths, Chandler Cabinets, Foxworth Galbraith Lumber Company, Prosperity Bank, Bardell Plumbing, and Stellar Home Theater and Beyond. We are about to start the webinar, but first just a reminder, we'll be taking questions for this program. Please put any questions you have in the Q&A down at the bottom of your screen. Questions will be answered at the end of the program. Also, this is a panel will be recorded and made available on Dallas Buildings Association's YouTube channel and Facebook. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the moderator. He's past president of the Dallas Builders Association and Dallas Division president. His name is Michael Turner. He's with Classic Urban Homes. And I would like to just throw it over to you, Michael. Thank you for doing this.
Awesome, fantastic. Thanks for having me, Matty Mitch. I think that's the nicest things you've ever said to me, so I appreciate that very much. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Those that are watching this webinar, feel free to enjoy your sandwich while you're watching, and hopefully one of the days we'll get back to doing these luncheons in person where we can kind of visit and shake everybody's hands. So I think we got a great program lined up for you. We have some titans of the industry. We're going to ask them some hard-hitting questions, and then hopefully we'll get some additional questions as we go along. So I'm going to introduce our panelists. First, I'll start off with, we have Jack Foxworth from Foxworth Galbraith Lumber Company. Jack is a fourth generation Foxworth, so very, very cool. Company was started in the early 1900s. Representing the appliance, hardware, and plumbing industry, we have Guy Minix with Facets Kitchens and Baths. That company, you may know that company, they're under their former name of Bath and Kitchen Showplace. Guy, thanks for being here. And then we also have Ben Para of Lights Fantastic Pro. So I think we're representing the industry really well here. And without further ado, let's get into the questions. All right, first question. We'll go around the horn, and everybody can give their answer. So we'll start off with Jack Foxworth on this. First question: how has the pandemic affected your business in terms of labor, employees, productions, deliveries? Let us know how it's affected you guys.
Thanks for the question. For those of you watching, you're probably seeing my VP of Purchasing, David Yessie. We're a little bit of different setup here. It'll eventually move around to me, I suspect. But the answer to your question, overall, our business has been very strong throughout our system. We operate in 5 states, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, and Oklahoma. It's been pretty consistent that our business has been strong. Our home center operations, as you can imagine, we have a lot of consumers in DIY that, having been bottled up, are now coming into our stores trying to get DIY projects done. And as you know, here in the DFW area in particular, residential construction continues to be very strong. What we have seen is we have about 1,200 employees across the company. We've had relatively few COVID cases. I'd say about a total of 10 over the duration. None of those initiated in our branches. All of those came from family members or so outside. And like so many other businesses, we've implemented all the necessary COVID constraints and protocols all of our locations now, the employees and the customers are required in our facilities to wear masks and social distance as we can. We did introduce, because of the strain on our employees, we did introduce early on in about March, we introduced some additional benefits. We called them COVID pay benefits to accommodate those people either that were contracted the disease or had family members that they had to take care of, or even their children who couldn't go to school because the schools were closed. We introduced some additional benefit up to 80 hours that they could take advantage of before they got into their vacation and sick pay. We've implemented for our corporate office and in some administrative positions, we've implemented a work from home policy that seems to be very effective. We have all the technical resources at everybody's home, and we have a lot of Zoom meetings. Our office was closed for a period of time. It is now reopened officially. And so people have the option of being in the office or at home. I would say on any given day, we have about 30 to 45% of our staff physically in the office. The rest are operating remotely. But in terms of our operations and those that serve the DFW area, we've been able to maintain our staffing levels. We've had no adverse corona impact in the area here. And because demand is high, our people have been working very hard under a lot of stress, as you can imagine, at home and at work. And we're trying to do the things to keep them engaged and energized and not burn out in the COVID environment.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that answer. Guy Minix, let's go to you next. Same question, just to reiterate. How has business been since the pandemic? How are you handling labor, employees, deliveries? Guy, can you hear us?
Yeah, there you are. Sorry, Michael, it's hard to hear you for some reason. Don't know why, but thanks for inviting me on. It's been an interesting leadership challenge to try to lead through this, as this is probably unprecedented for everyone on the vendor panel and everyone that's listening as well. We here at Facets Appliances, Kitchens, and Baths, formerly Bath and Kitchen Showplace, we are part of a larger company. We're part of Hajoka Incorporated. So the wholesale plumbing side of our business is more supply. So we are all tied together. And now with our new showroom here in Northwest Dallas, we are at the same location that More Supply is at, or where they're located. But it's been interesting for us in that we were deemed an essential business from day one. So we have been extremely busy. We did kind of cut back to a skeleton crew, anticipating, or really not knowing what to anticipate, from the new construction and the remodeling industry, but to our surprise, it has been very strong. Our plumbers have been, that come into our wholesale side, have seemed to have been really busy with people being at home for COVID. And just seems like remodeling projects all of a sudden are just overwhelming our plumbing customers. And so therefore we are staying really busy. On the showroom side, we did have to close the showroom for a period of time, and it was just phone call only, but we have always been open. And now over the last probably 5 or 6 weeks, once we moved everyone over here from our downtown location in the design district, we have opened the showroom by appointment only. So we are open for appointment only, and we are very busy with builders, designers, remodelers, and architects coming in to set up appointments with our sales staff. So that's kind of how it's affected us. I can tell you from an inventory perspective, it's been a challenging scenario for us, especially in the appliance industry, as all of the manufacturers have been affected by this. We have a lot of US-based manufacturing, and I would say most of them have been shut down with COVID cases, therefore affecting manufacturing. So there is an appliance shortage in the industry, and we now have builders and remodelers calling us looking for really any brand that they can find, even though they may have had an agreement with someone else. So it has been challenging, and Michael, we anticipate that challenge till the end of the year for appliances. So I'll stop there and wait for questions.
All right, sounds good. All right, Ben Parra, same question.
Hey, thanks, Michael. I think really just to reiterate the point of the other two, the real challenges for us have been, staffing. We unfortunately had to close the showroom for roughly 30 days, and we had to furlough some of our staff out of both of our Dallas locations. We've been able to bring some of them back, but when you let good people go, it's always a struggle to try and replace them with existing people. And unfortunately for us, we haven't seen much of a dip in our business. So you don't see much of a dip, and all of a sudden you lose 30% of your staff. It can be a challenge. That's been one of our real big challenges. Fortunately for us, in our showrooms, we've really been able to practice social distancing. We haven't had any COVID cases with any of our employees within our showrooms. Our corporate facility has had some, which has experienced some delays in our commercial end of the business. But on the residential side, we've been pretty fortunate. And really our biggest challenge, I think, is what everybody's challenge is just the uncertainty of what's happening. I was just discussing this with one of my sales guys. He was meeting with a builder, and this builder needed something as simple as a 60-inch black ceiling fan. And there are none. There are none to be had from any vendor in the country. And you can imagine the frustration we have trying to deliver product to builders who want this product and to customers, and we can't supply it. So that's been really one of our real big challenges, is just the uncertainty and all of these hurdles that we're trying to jump to get to this point to satisfy our customer.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's what being on the builder side, and actually I do business with all our panelists right here, is I definitely see that same thing as well. So let's start. We'll circle back up here with Jack. The lumber mills that you guys deal with, are all your mills back open? Have they had any shutdowns due to COVID cases?
I'm going to make a comment, but I've invited, I think I mentioned my VP of purchasing, because I know there's a lot of strain and stress in the marketplace concerning pricing and availability. So yes, we've had supply issues, some of which have been driven by our mills, and they're being shut down or curtailed because of COVID and a number of other issues. But I'm going to let David give us a little bit more current update around that.
Okay, thanks, Jack. I'll give you guys some color around both the lumber and the panel markets. We're at unprecedented highs in terms of pricing, and well past our most recent mark in 2018. It is a supply-driven market. Product availability is extremely tight, allowing these mills to command higher prices. The Canadian mills were the first to really draw back production prior to the widespread pandemic, but additional pressure on the inland producers, the domestic producers, has persisted there as well. Part of all of this is, prior to the run-up, your typical wholesalers, the distributors and secondaries, they didn't take a position in the lumber market in fear of a rapid drop after it ran up. So that also contributed to a shortfall in supply. So consequently, there isn't any prompt material available in the marketplace. The robust building in the Northeast, I think we mentioned a significant upswing in big box business nationwide, and steady starts in the South have all contributed to the shortfalls. In DFW, yellow pine, which is one of our primary building species, has been extremely difficult to source lately in the wider dimensions, 2x8 and greater. We're looking at other species such as Doug fir when it's available. But yellow pine shortages have also contributed to problematic sourcing in the treated market. So when we look at treated products in places like Home Depot, they're all using that product for decks and for a lot of remodeling purposes. So we're seeing shortages in that as well. When we turn back up to Canada, SPF in Western Canada, that production's been reduced, and that contributes to a shortfall in number 3 spruce, which we use a lot of plate material here in DFW. And then, of course, finger joint studs, which are widely used here in the Metroplex as well, are also very tight. And then to compound all of that, the rail car issues persist because they parked a lot of these and they haven't come back online yet.
As we transition, and Michael, I'd just add 2 things. One, for those of you that saw the derailment that happened in Phoenix here a week ago, it was on the national news. We happened to have some lumber on that derailment that created some immediate supply issues for us in the West. But I think the other thing is the mills, coming out of 18 where it was high, the prices dropped quite a bit on the commodities through 19. And now the mills who had been planning to take supply out of the market, even before the pandemic, we're now seeing the implications on those higher prices and short supplies.
Okay. Guys, same thing as far as manufacturing facilities right now, or manufacturers. I guess, if you want to pick, plumbing or appliances. I think you alluded to a little bit earlier that appliances are becoming more difficult to get, and people are kind of switching brands, looking for availability. Do you want to allude a little more on that?
Yeah, Michael, it's interesting with the appliance manufacturers. It's not necessarily one category. It seems to be across the board, especially with the U.S.-based manufacturing companies, because once one of their line workers came down with COVID, they had to shut the factories down in order to clean the factories and to test other people. So it has really put them behind. The interesting fact is that the Korean companies, because they had product on the water, have seemed to be in a little bit better situation, but now they are running up against product shortages and et cetera. And it's not necessarily just one category. It seems to be across the board. And then sometimes supply chain of those companies is affected by the freight liners, who also may have had COVID issues. So availability for us that usually would take, between 3 and 5 days to get product, it's now taking 2 weeks to 4 weeks to get product, depending on the category and depending on the vendor or the manufacturer. So, and when I ask around the industry, it seems like it's going to be a challenge until the end of the year. Michael?
Yeah, that's definitely noticing that, and just I'll just kick in a little bit. I'm not a panelist, I'm the moderator, but I have noticed that it seems like when we have clients picking, product that is being manufactured in California, whether it's lighting or plumbing or appliances, that state has obviously taken some pretty drastic measures, and that product lines coming out of California, I know in particular, have been pretty difficult.
Yes, sir.
So, what you're, to allude on the appliances, and Ben, you could probably, you can kind of reiterate on this as well, is, these products that are, that are manufactured on an assembly line, you've got people that are fairly in close contact with each other all day, every day. And, you could definitely see how that would affect those facilities.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like our manufacturing plant in Carrollton, again, we build more commercial product there. So pre-corona, January, we were hitting about 92% on our deliverables on our promise dates. Whatever that promise date was, we were hitting it 92% of the time. I will tell you, my boss would probably kick my butt for saying it, but in July, it was 42%. We're hitting less than half of the numbers. And again, that's more on the commercial side, but that bleeds over to the resi side as well. And that's just the reality that when you have, 10, 15, 20% of your workforce or even more is out due to this, whether it's someone in their family or themselves that have tested positive, it's really put a strain on what we're able to do. I would also say that, going back to what Jeff made a comment earlier about the ceiling fan, we actually have a policy at our store that when we see Jeff's account pop up needing product, he actually goes to the bottom of the list as opposed to the top of the list. So just for you, Jeff.
I think that's similar with a lot of the other vendors that he uses as well, too.
I'm sure they feel the same.
Nice shout out to Jeff there. Let's start back around the horn with Jack or David. As builders are, and there's a lot of us guys that do fixed price custom builds, where we're not doing cost plus, to where wherever the market's moving, we can adjust our pricing. As a fixed cost builder, any recommendations? Obviously, we all had a crystal ball. This business would be much easier, but just give us some ideas of what you would recommend for us to do to kind of hedge against some of the whipsaw swings that we're seeing in the lumber market.
Yeah, well, and I am going to give David an opportunity to comment, but you talked about this whipsaw. I hope we see some whipsaw and we see some of the prices come back down, because I don't believe they're sustainable. And I had a neighbor of mine ask me, who's rebuilding a custom home in the Tornado area, which is my neighborhood. And I was explaining to him about the record prices, and they're a ways out from getting a new slab in and ready to rebuild. In terms of, you can probably get Foxwood Galbraith or other commodity suppliers to fix a price for a period of time. We don't like to go very long, because that insurance, somebody's got to pay for that. Either we have to hedge it on a big project in the financial markets, or we have to take delivery of the product, and it becomes costly for us to sit on the ground and tie our money up there. So, but that can be done to protect against future increases. I think in terms of negotiating on a custom home with the actually home buyer, I think having some provisions in the contract to escalate if the commodities go up, but also to save the home buyer a little bit of money if the prices come down. I think it's hard, as much as the market has moved and can move, to bet on a fixed price, especially if you've got a big custom and you're going to be framing it over, I mean, potentially you could be over 30 or 60 days and we can see a lot of move. It's hard to fix it in there. David, do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, just adding to that, normally we would see some, ask for some species flexibility with the builder, but in today's market, everything has gone up. So everything from Doug fir to yellow pine. So there is no price haven that you can turn to as an alternate.
Okay, fair enough. Guy, I guess on that, as far as, builders trying to kind of, hedge on a fixed cost, contract, pre-buying plumbing fixtures and say appliances early on in the build process, does that help? Or, is there one of those categories that you feel is more volatile than the other?
Well, Michael, it's interesting that we have not, knock on wood, faced any price increases from the appliance industry since COVID hit. We feel fortunate. We're able to still honor our builder contracts and our builder pricing. The only challenge to that is that the models or the SKUs that they're normally used to could have a production issue, and so they may be having to select a different model that we may have in stock that we can get our hands on, but we have not faced any pricing issues with that, so we're fortunate. We also have, of course, the plumbing side of our business with the decorative plumbing, and we've been fortunate there also not to have to face a price increase. We just have production issues, and it may take longer to get it, especially if it's coming from China. But we do have a lot of companies that we buy from that are US based, that it just may take a little bit longer to get it, but we've been able to honor our pricing. So we feel fortunate there, and we feel fortunate to be able to help the builders with that. So back to you, Michael.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know, from the builder's perspective, it's, it's a little scary when you're, speccing all the stuff out on the, on the front end, or you've got, clients picking stuff out or designers picking stuff out, when you start manufacturing cabinets very early on in the process, and you're building these cutouts based on product that you're hoping you're going to be able to get, when you need it in another, another 3 to 4 months. So it's definitely crazy times for sure. So, Ben, I guess other than 60-inch black ceiling fans, actually I've got like 5 or 6 of those in my warehouse. If you'd like to purchase them from me,
I'll send you Jeff's number.
I hedged on those when Corona started, but any other product lines that you see any volatility in and difficulty in getting?
For us, the biggest challenge has been not necessarily getting the product. I mean, there are certain segments that we're seen some back order issues on, but it's a lot of the challenges we face in lighting. It's that lighting is such a decorative business and fashion type business that the styles change really quickly. So we face this every year where all of a sudden a certain finish just gets red hot, and the manufacturers just aren't able to get it produced in time. So we face those challenges regardless. But our biggest challenge is just lead times, and just the length now it's taking to get product, especially on the custom and semi-custom side. Just as an example, I'm working on a house in Dallas right now, and we're doing these really great modern lines of light in their hallway and media room and in a few places. And the vendor I buy from is based out of Chicago. It's an American-made product. And it typically is about a 2 to 3 week lead time. Right now it's 5 to 6 weeks, just because they don't have as much staff as what they had before. The shipping lead times are taking longer. We get constantly a deluge of customers asking, when is my product coming in? We go to track it. We tell them it's due in on Tuesday. It ends up showing up Friday. Again, just because UPS, FedEx, and all these other freight lines they're just so far behind trying to get caught up. That's where we're seeing some real challenges, is just in the deliverables of getting it here in a timely fashion.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm one of those customers, Ben, that's bugging
Yes.
my salesperson every day or two. I just have it set up on a auto email just to hit them every 2 days to find out where my product is. And then, Ben, just to reiterate, you said that certain finishes are red hot, or is the color red hot?
No, certain finishes. So black is a perfect example. Right now in lighting, it seems like black just kind of came out of nowhere in the last 6 months, really beginning of the year. And if I have go back to ceiling fans, because it's almost a commodity, a black ceiling fan is just not to be found. And it's wild how quickly, again, in lighting, how quickly the trends change and how fast they move.
Gotcha. All right, Ben, we're going to stick with you on, I've got another one here. Let's see, this is a question from the audience here. Why is LED tape so expensive, and what should we be paying for 4-inch recessed can trims?
All great questions. So LED tape is, I think it depends upon, how you look at it and how you want to use it. If you use it in kind of in just in a few small select areas, it can get pricey because of the main cost is in the drivers that power the low voltage tape. So virtually all tape is low voltage, and we use drivers to power them. At least for us, we like to supply a high quality driver. It is the one thing that will fail on LED product 90% of the time. The LEDs rarely fail. It's almost always in the power supply. So for us, we use nice power supplies because we don't want a customer in a year coming back and complaining that their tape doesn't work, or it's flashing, or it's strobing. So we try and take care of that on the front end. And that's where a lot of the expense comes in on LED. Tape light itself, again, the tape light we sell, we sell better quality stuff. We don't like to sell the inexpensive stuff. It's going to run $7, $8, $9 a foot, which to me isn't that bad. But when we start to add power supplies in, that's when we'll see that price start to jump up a little bit. And again, for us, it's about quality. We don't want to sell a substandard product. You've experienced it, Mike, when we've, gone less expensive, and all of a sudden we're out at that house 4 different times to change out product. And it's a pain. It costs me a lot of money. It costs you money and time. It's not fun. So we try and do
that cheaper quality product as well too. So
yeah, absolutely. And then the question about the 4-inch recessed can, that's a good question. On the trim, for us, we're anywhere from, like, our low bottom end is roughly around $10 a piece. You can get lesser expensive options out there, at the Home Depots and stuff. I have a warehouse full of defective 4-inch trims when we went to the low end side. And I'm sure you and every other builder, when we went low end, has experienced the, color shift or the strobing. Yeah, everyone has. And so we've moved away from that. So we don't want to do the $5, $6, $7 4-inch trim. It's an ugly market, and that low end market, there's no money to be made for anybody once you factor in time and service. So for us, we're anywhere from $10 to $15, depending on what the look is and what the client wants. Obviously, they can be a lot more if we get into that customer that really wants the right type of light for their space, and they want to take the time and figure out what they want to light and how they want to light it. But again, for us, I think that's kind of a good starting point. Somewhere in that $10 to $15 range for a 4-inch basic retrofit trim that's of good quality, and we know it's going to last.
Yeah, one of the cool things that I'm seeing now in those can trims, LED can trims, is the adjustability on those, where you can go, 27 to 4,000 to 5,000 kW. So, for those that are listening to this or watching this webinar, if you haven't used those yet, it's really nice because, sometimes you'll get clients, they'll tell you that they want a specific temperature of light, and then you install 100 can trims, and then they decide that they want something either brighter or softer, and so the adjustable ones are definitely a cool way to go.
I do have to say one thing that we've actually had not to pimp the company, but just that we found some real success with is now being able to, so with an LED fixture in the past, when you would dim an LED, they go from basically from just a bright color to dim. They just basically get less bright. So it was the opposite of the lighting that we were used to for 100 years with incandescent and halogen light sources. When you dim an incandescent light bulb, it gets very, very warm. You know, I always talk about restaurants. If you go into a restaurant where the lights are dimmed, you know, it's almost like it's sumptuous. It's so yellow in there. So LEDs never did that because it's an electronic source. You know, so they basically just got less bright. We've seen some real success over the last few months with a few of our vendors that are now doing, you know, more of that warm dim technology, so that as you dim these recessed fixtures, they now mimic that same dimming curve of an incandescent light bulb. So they get warmer, you know, the more dim they get. So again, you know, in your kitchen or a bathroom, you dim them down to about 30%. They're this very soft yellow color. But, you know, if you need the light, you can always turn it up and get a nice brighter white light out of it as well.
Perfect. Fantastic. Let's switch over to the lumber market with Jack and David. Sheathing, obviously we have to use that on every house. Are there certain manufacturers or types of product that you're having better availability in, or are there certain products that you would recommend that we kind of stay away from due to lack of availability?
You know, I'm so thankful that I brought David in, because right now, if you had asked me that question without him here, I would be going, David, what can you share?
You bet. You know, well, as you know, that the oriented strand board market has taken off like the lumber market. So builders are, you know, several are looking at using more structural insulated sheathing. There's a few manufacturers that produce that. You'll get the insulating values along with the structural aspects, but I'm not so certain there's a whole lot of dollar savings yet. Now, if OSB prices continue to go up, you'll see some alternatives, guys switching over to that. So just a matter of time. I mean, our panel prices today are at a 560 mil per thousand. And if you add freight on that into DFW, you've got about another $30. So prices are at an all-time high.
All right. Are there just, you know, kind of for our builder education out there, is it, you know, back on the sheathing item, you know, do you see more volatility in the, you know, the OSB type products versus the, you know, rigid foam insulation panels?
Yes. Now, well, in the short term, I think OSB prices are going to remain firm. Well, the foam insulated sheathing market has remained relatively unchanged. But again, you get that insulating value that you don't get with oriented strand board. So we're likely to see panels recede before the lumber market does, just because of the amount of domestic production we have on OSB.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, Guy, back to you. As far as appliance manufacturers, let's get a little more specific. What manufacturers are you having the biggest problem with getting product from?
Well, I would say right now the ones with the biggest challenges are the ones that are U.S. based, Whirlpool, GE, Electrolux, Frigidaire. Those are the ones that, you know, are U.S. based, that have factories in the U.S. They also have factories in Mexico that has affected them. So it's, Michael, it's not necessarily, like I said, a particular category. It's them having their factories closed for a certain period of time. We don't seem to be having the same challenges for the, let me say, the premium and the luxury product, the higher end product. That one doesn't seem to be quite as affected as the mass product for builders that build to a budget. You know, and I said earlier that the Korean companies, LG and Samsung, have been in a pretty decent situation with appliances because they had so much on the water. As product hit the US, they were able to disperse it pretty quickly. However, they now are also facing challenges because our domestic companies have been challenged with availability. So, you know, that's kind of been our challenges there with the appliance industry. We'll also share with you that we're also in the flooring business, and we do see some challenges there with tile companies, and as they have laid off people, it just seems to take a little bit longer to get product. But where it usually might take 2 or 3 days, it's now taking 10 days to 2 weeks. So it's kind of come down to labor and employee based for that segment of the industry as well.
Okay, so to make sure I understand this, or to give our viewers as much detail as possible. So what I'm hearing is the luxury manufacturers, and we're just going to use some brand specifics, and if I leave anybody out, please don't be offended. But if I were purchasing, say, Wolf Sub-Zero, you know, Viking, some of the other major manufacturers, you'd say on that luxury side, Miele, Gaggenau, so like that, you're saying that availability on the higher end stuff is not bad, not as effective?
Yeah, Michael, it's not as much of a problem or a challenge as the more of the entry level type product. Doesn't seem to be as much of a problem because, as you know, production builders will absorb hundreds and thousands of dishwashers and ranges and refrigerators for a production builder. So you're correct. You mentioned the brands: Sub, Wolf, Thermador, Gaggenau, Blue Star, Fisher Paykel, SKS, Heston, Miele. Those don't seem to be as much a production issue as it is a maybe an employee issue to be able to get it out the door because they've had to go to a skeleton crew. But that seems to do pretty well for us.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. All right, Ben, let's get kind of specific as well, too, on your side. Obviously, ceiling fans, we put them into every house. We've already decided that if we want black fans, we need to paint them ourselves. Are there specific manufacturers, say ceiling fans, okay, you know, throwing out some different manufacturers, I don't know whether it's, you know, Minka or, you know, Big Ass Fans or whoever, are there certain manufacturers that we're more difficulty getting?
You know, obviously lighting manufacturers aren't nearly as well known as Wolf or GE, but you know, for us, Minka Air is our top selling fan brand. They produce some really great looking fans at really, quite frankly, great pricing, and they are a real challenge in getting product right now. Just trying to get anything that's in a new finish or as a new product is virtually impossible. And even their, you know, old standbys, the stuff that we sell over and over, if it is in stock, what used to be a 7-day lead time is now, you know, 15 to 20-day lead time. Big Ass Fans is a great example of, you know, someone else has faced challenges. You know, we sell Big Ass Fans, and they're made in Kentucky. They build every fan to basically to suit. They're almost like a Ferrari, where they build each individual fan so that they're all balanced and they all are weighted together, so there's no wobble. But the challenge there is, you know, they're working with 20% less staff, 30% less staff. So what used to be, you know, traditionally a 7 to 10 day lead time is now, right now, they're telling me is 28 days.
Wow.
For a lot of their fans, their turnaround time. You know, so that's where we're seeing some real challenges in terms of brand specifics. There are a couple of brands that local, you know, we buy Craft Made fans. They're based here in Capel. They do a great job of stocking just kind of their builder basics, and some of the stuff that we use, we can get for almost anyone within about 48 hours. Another real challenge for us has been on the light bulb side. For example, Sadco, they have a 400,000 square foot facility here in Dallas where we pick up from. I would say right now they're back ordered 25% on their lamps. You think 25% isn't bad, but 25% for us is almost crippling when we try and supply bulbs on some of these jobs. So that's been really some of the challenge we've had with some of our vendors.
Gotcha. And for those that are viewing or listening to our panel discussion here, just to set the record straight, Ben and I were not using profanity. Big Ass Fans is actually a manufacturer, so just please know that I don't want Phil Crone or Misty Barcelona to be getting angry emails from the profanity-laced webinars. So clear the air on that right there. All right, for those that are viewing this or listening, now would be a great time to type in your question. That is anybody other than Jeff. I believe he is blocked from asking any more questions. So please feel free to if there's something specific that you need to know, a product you're having difficulty with, looking for maybe alternatives or an answer to why, we've got the people here that can answer that for you. Get anything there yet, Misty?
Yes, I've got one question. Sorry. Says, on appliances, are you recommending that builders put their orders in earlier than normal, or is it not going to matter?
Well, I would recommend that you put your orders in earlier. I know we are doing the same. We are reaching out and we're ordering product to help builders with packages. I would just say it would be better for you to put your order in earlier just because of the time it's taking now to get product. And unfortunately, the appliance industry also has a transition time, and pre-COVID, a lot of appliance companies will use early fall for transitions. And that's what they plan on in their product life cycle. Excuse me. So now you've got post-COVID, they've already started transitioning, and now they're kind of up against a couple of strong headwinds of going to new models, factories shut down, and then fewer people to be able to get the product out the door. So I would encourage you to get your orders in earlier until we can get behind this.
Guy, that's good advice. And I for us that do a lot of custom builds, we are trying to get our clients to make selections on everything as early as we possibly can, just knowing that we're going to have the difficulties with procuring some of this product. So I know that when I'm doing custom builds, in a perfect world, we're trying to get all these products with long lead times picked out, be very early on before we pour the foundation, or early on in the framing stage, to make sure that you don't get bit on the back end, and you can't get your product and deliver your house on time. So good advice, and hopefully everybody's listening will heed that. All right. I guess the question from Jeff. Oh, Jeff would like me to borrow Matt's headset next time I do this. So my apologies if I'm hard to hear. I will definitely have a headset by the time we do this again.
It's what all the cool kids are wearing.
I thought it was just to cover up your bald head. All right. Any other questions from the audience?
It looks like we've got one question. Why are studios still showing or allowing buyers to select certain products if they already know that there are problems getting those SKUs?
We'll start with Ben on that one. Why do you let them pick out stuff they can't get, Ben?
Really, quite frankly, it's we find that most customers are willing to wait for the look. If they find the look that is, again, because lighting is such a fashion-oriented business, that if they find the look that they want, they're willing to wait for it. It causes great pain for us because then we have to go out and service the product and hang it, or we have to listen to the customer calling us constantly, checking on it, when's it coming in. So we're constantly having to check with the vendors. But we find, especially in lighting, again, it's so fashion forward that most of our consumers are willing to wait. Having said that, we do offer alternatives. I can't tell you how many times we end up switching a customer or client to a product that has a similar look. Sometimes it's less money, sometimes it's more, but something that we can deliver in a much quicker fashion. We do try and offer alternatives whenever possible. But in the end, sometimes they're just willing to wait. It's just the reality.
And again, I guess it boils down to just educating that buyer on the front end and go, look,
100%.
what you're wanting is extremely popular. It's long lead times. Get the stuff picked out. Let's get it ordered before you get there.
Yes.
We'll throw that question to Guy. Guy, why do you let Phil Smith sell product that you know you can't get?
Why do I let him do that? Wow, that's a great question. I can't even answer that, Michael.
Is that a no comment that I'm getting from you, Guy?
Hey, Phil does what he wants to do.
All right, and obviously, Jack and David, you guys don't have people coming in and picking out 2x4s or pieces of OSB with a pretty pattern on them, so you're not quite as affected by that end of it, are you?
We aren't, but I've been surprised over the years that the home buyer that is having a nice custom home built, and they don't understand the structural implications of the studs and the plates and the sheathing, and they start worrying about what the studs look like inside the walls. And then, some of the best studs out there are finger joint studs. Well, for the layman home buyer, to them, that is a crummy product. And so they want a solid. So yes, we don't have it often, but occasionally we do have customers that are getting involved with the look of product that nobody will ever see.
Why are you selling me those 2x4s that have been broken and glued back together?
Those are the best we got, but if you don't want it, I'll be the one with the Wayne on it.
I understand. All right, very good. Misty, do we have any further questions?
No more questions from the audience.
All right. I think we were supposed to go till 1, but I think we're fairly close to that. So I would just like to thank the panelists for joining us today and taking time out of their busy schedules. If they're like me, they've probably got about an extra 50 or 60 emails in their inbox during this hour. But thank each and every one of you for being here today and for your insight. We hope everybody watching and listening found this useful and helpful. And with that, I will throw it back to El Presidente, Matty Mitch.
Thank you, Michael. Great job. Thank you, guys. This is helpful. I know this is a confusing time, and I don't know. Hopefully, we'll get this sorted out sooner rather than later, and time will tell. But can't tell you how much we appreciate your time and your support of the DBA.